Hello and welcome to the Cardiac Cats YouTube channel. I'm your host, Jacob Shorba, and we are here to recap the Week 16 game where Jacksonville falls to the Las Vegas Raiders. I'll be honest, I was not thinking they were going to lose this game. I felt like this was the end of the road if you were on Team Tank, that they were going to end up winning this, and the conversation would probably very quickly shift from players like Travis Hunter or Mason Graham and Abdul Carter, Will Johnson to maybe now you're talking about that second tier guys because you're moving back. Maybe, right? Because there's other games this team could still beat. But Jacksonville ends up actually losing to the Raiders. Raiders break a huge losing streak and go to 3-12. And by virtue of strength of schedule, the Jaguars are now sitting at third in the draft order. Now, we're going to talk a lot about this, but I am going to at least recap the game to start. At this point, guys, I've said every week, the season's lost, and there's not a ton to get out of the individual performances from these games compared to what it would usually be. There's not much to fight for. And so this is the situation that we're ultimately in, where we're kind of focusing more on the long-term stuff. But to talk about the actual game, awesome performances from the two best receivers, I'll call them both receivers, from this draft class, and Brian Thomas Jr. and Brock Bowers. Just amazing games from them. Thomas had a huge, I think it was like a 62-yard reception, which was, I'm going to be honest, guys, a little sus. Seeing that the Raiders just happened to miss a field goal before that and then gave that up in a season that's lost, where they needed to lose this game to really have a shot at a top quarterback, right? This is a team that in Las Vegas is going to lose a lot from winning this game, and it's going to really hurt them and might cost them an arm and a leg to move up, which we'll talk about. But I just thought that play was kind of funny that they just happened to blow coverage right after that. Seemed a little suspicious to me. But other than that, it's an okay day on the ground, not that great. 50 yards from your leading rusher. We'll actually look at more stats here. 22 from ETN, just same old, right? Not a dominant rushing game for this team, and it's been the same way all year. Mac Jones throwing it a ton here. You've got 39 attempts and 21 rushes from this team. Tells you a lot about what they've been doing and why it doesn't really work. Outside of that, Parker Washington had a solid day, but no one else had even 2 receptions. You did have some sacks on the defensive side. Mason Smith got involved in this one. Eric Armstead also had one. So that was nice to see. But no turnovers, right? This is a team that I think I saw it had been 42 days since the last time they got a turnover. And remember, this team didn't have a turnover till like week 5 or 6, I think it was. Or they had 1 up to that point. It was something really bad. Like, I remember putting out something about how Brian Branch had more turnovers single-handedly than this entire team did. And by this point, he might actually have more still. I think he got another one today. So it's disgusting. But this is where we are. We'll look at PFF grades here really quick. Not shocking that Brian Thomas Jr. is your top guy. Want to give a shout out to Luke Farrell here really quick. I think this is someone we easily overlook, but really good game as a blocking tight end. This is something he's done really well in Jacksonville. I hope they end up keeping him around, because that is a valuable role in this offense, especially if they start working on that run game more. And they need players like that to be involved there. So good game from him, which we've seen a lot this year. For the offensive line, kind of the same thing. A lot of good. A lot of these are actually not offensive linemen, but generally you got a lot of good passing performances in pass blocking. That's what I'm trying to say here. Not many negative grades aside from Mitch Morse. You got a run blocking, and then you got a couple that are okay. Anton Harrison's been much better there recently, at least according to PFF. So that's nice to see. But nothing too crazy impressive here. On the defense side of the ball, good day from Devon Hamilton. Antonio Johnson, limited amount of snaps. Still playing well, though. And, can't really comment when you got 5 snaps or 6 snaps here. But ultimately, defense was all right today. Nothing too impressive, though, right? This is a loss to the Las Vegas Raiders. Not a whole lot I can say that's going to be nice. Now, with that all said, because there's not much else to talk about here, we're going to talk about the implications of this, because this is where things could get really interesting. And if Jacksonville had just won this game, the conversations are all the same, right? It's two quarterbacks go at the top. Patriots are going to walk into Travis Hunter. They're not going to trade out. No one's going to want the pick. And they're going to take him, and then it's like, who takes what from there? Because then that's when you have a real conversation between guys like Abdul Carter and Will Johnson, Mason Graham, and Tetairoa McMillan, and even Ashton Genty for some. But that's not the case, right? Jacksonville loses this game, and this really changes things, because now we may have been concerned more in the past being behind the New England Patriots in the draft order. But remember, last year, New England was considering trading the number 3 pick until pretty late in the process. Then they decided they were going to take Drake May. I think that was generally going to be their intentions. But now that you're sitting here at number 2 as the New England Patriots, you know the Giants are probably going to get Shedeur Sanders at this point. That's pretty well locked up, given they don't win a game here. You have a pick where probably Cam Ward's going to be on the board. And look, Cam Ward's my QB1. I don't think he goes number 1 just based off what we've been hearing. But if he's sitting there at number 2, I think a team moves up, right? Because you have the Tennessee Titans, you've got the Cleveland Browns, and you got the Las Vegas Raiders here, all wanting a quarterback. So all of a sudden, number 2 could be a pick where a team moves up, and the Jacksonville Jaguars, by virtue of the Patriots moving out and making this a quarterback selection, could just walk into Travis Hunter here. That is a very real scenario that can now play out. Now, the flip side. Say the New England Patriots just sit here and say, look, we can't trade out of this pick. Travis Hunter is an incredible player. We cannot consider giving up on that kind of talent when our team already lacks talent, even if we got more picks. And honestly, that's what they should do, in my opinion. I think they should hold on to the pick. I hope they don't, of course, because I'm a Jaguars fan. But if they did that, and you're sitting here at 3 with Cam Ward on the board, you have the Tennessee Titans here at number 4, who are praying to God that you do not trade out of that pick, because they need their quarterback. They aren't going with Will Levis, right? That's not their plan. And maybe they get someone in free agency by them. But if that's the case, where there's still a quarterback here at number 3, you're going to get offers to move back. And you're probably going to get a first-round pick offer from the Browns or the Raiders for that pick. And it could even be the New York Jets we could be talking about. It could be the New Orleans Saints. There are other teams here that would probably be willing to make that kind of move. I mean, if I was the New York Jets, for example, this is the exact kind of quarterback I would want on my team. I think he's someone that, if he goes to a bad situation, he can overcome that, because he has the kind of confidence level that cannot be shattered where he's at. He's just that type of player, and that's why I have him as my QB1. But he's the realistic one available. I think you could see teams that really want to bid on that pick and will send you really good offers for it. I'm not talking about, what the Bears got for number 1 from Carolina. You're not sitting at number 1 here. But I think you would get something very valuable and worth your time. And you would move to a spot where, hey, we're still going to get a really good player. Maybe the focus shifts from, getting one of the very top guys at a very valuable position to maybe now it's Ashton Genty we could talk about if we can build up the team around him well. Or maybe we're going after, I don't know, Luther Bird. I could even throw his name out. Like one of those types of players in the next tier, or the top running back in this class, because Ashton's a very interesting case for this team and a lot of others. But that's where this thing could go very quickly. So it's really interesting. If things finish this way, it's going to be a fun offseason to talk about the draft, because there's so many things that can happen. It really leaves it open to a lot of possibilities, assuming that teams don't suddenly decide that Cam Ward actually sucks and they don't want to trade up for him. I highly doubt that would be the case. But with this result, the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be sitting very well in the draft order. And if they do lose these next 2 games, they're set up very well for the next person who comes in. Now, talk about this a little bit. Just to kind of recap tiebreakers here. Because you've got what is now 5 teams tied at 3-12. And this is determined not by head-to-head primarily, but strength of schedule. And right now, the Patriots have had the weakest schedule of all these teams. I've made a document, or we'll call it a spreadsheet, that's better, that basically tells you who you want to root for and who you want to root against for the rest of the year. If you want the Jaguars to make up this ground. Now, unfortunately, I'll tell you this. It's very unlikely that the Jaguars would beat the Patriots in strength of schedule. And even if they got to where the Patriots were and tied, they would not win the next tiebreaker. So this is very unlikely. But this tells you, for example, like in this game, the Saints and Packers, you want the Saints to get an upset. Because if the Saints get an upset, you've only played the Packers, and they would lose a game, which weakens your strength of schedule, and it knocks you down, right? And that's a good thing, because the weaker your strength of schedule is, the higher in the draft order you're going to be, because they see this as, for example, New England picks higher than Jacksonville because New England has done just as much as Jacksonville, but with an easier schedule. So they've had an easier path. What if New England had the same strength of schedule? Maybe they lose in their game. It's kind of the way they look at it. So if you guys want access to this, I put this on my Twitter. I'll try to put it in the description as well, but I'll just be very clear about this. Very unlikely that it's going to come down to strength of schedule being tied or in favor of Jacksonville. I just don't think that's the way this is going to turn out at this point. They didn't have enough things go their way this week. But with that all said, appreciate y'all watching. We will, I'm sure, have some stuff this week. We didn't have a lot last week, and honestly, we're just kind of at a point where we just want the season to end because, you know, I want to be able to talk definitively about head coach candidates. I want to talk about GM candidates too, but we got to have someone get fired first of all, and we want to get into how the Jaguars fix this thing. You know, last offseason, we did an episode of that. We did our Fixing the Jaguars. I think we even did a 2.0 version. I think when we get to that, and I'll kind of hit on this when we actually do the video, we'll probably have 2 versions. One will be what I would honestly do, and one would be what we would do if we want to compete at the highest level we can in 2025. Because I'll be very straight with you guys. This team needs a bit of a rebuild. They got to get cap compliant. They got to be healthier in that regard. They've got players that they should be playing to extend. I just think the way that they've planned things is very poor. And I would like for this team to be in a good situation compared to its division. Because right now, you're in a worse situation than teams that are better than you. And that's not acceptable. So we might have 2 just for that reason. But we're going to get into a lot of fun videos like that. I'm really excited for it. But we just got to get there, guys. 2 more weeks. We're almost there. And I'm really excited to get it over with, to be honest, as bad as that sounds. But with that all said, appreciate y'all watching. Want to shout out our channel members, Premier Seer 904, Mr. Dolphin, Scrubber Ducky 500, and Brian Foster. Thank you all for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And finally, go Jags.